Welcome to Haunted Horizons GhostCast, where your hosts, Alison Oborn and Kag Ali, will share their experiences in some of the most terrifying and haunted locations in Australia and overseas. So turn the lights off, relax, and enjoy. All right, well, here we are again, Kag.
Yay!
Episode number 5.
I know, how exciting.
My goodness, how did we ever think we were going to get to 5?
I don't know. Did you think we were going to make it 6?
Do you think we'll make it to 6?
Pushing it.
Don't know. You'll have to just keep listening and find out if we do get any more episodes going. So we've still remaining in America with this one, aren't we?
We are.
And we are going to another jail because we are very, very partial to prisons and jails.
We have a thing about prisons and jails, don't we?
Yeah, and asylums.
And asylums.
Do you think that says a lot about our character?
I think it probably does.
So, but we're back at another prison, and this time it is Licking Jail, or Licking County Jail. So, and we first heard about this. We knew it was going to be smaller. I think we first heard about it when we were trawling through YouTube, and we thought, you know what, we'll see where all these YouTubers have been. And we thought, well, Paranormal Quest, where have they been? Oh, look, they've been to a place called Licking Jail. So we thought, well, we need to do that. And that's how we found it, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And, yeah, and because of the way we found it, and because we had just done West Virginia, listen to the episode we put up last week for that one, we also invited Ryan and Jason from Paranormal Quest to come and join us. And this is who we've still got in the studio with us today, is Ryan. So, round of applause. Yay!
Hello, Alison. Hello, Kag.
Hello.
Hello, Ryan. Fancy you still being here.
I know, it's crazy. It's like I'm still here in Australia.
Yeah. Been here for quite a number of episodes so far.
That's right.
So you came to Licking Jail with us, and we had a great time there. It was a real surprise. So we might as well get straight into the whole episode instead of kind of, how do you say it? Flapping. How do you say it in American?
Just flapping your gums.
Flapping your gums.
Yeah, it means talking too much, which is what I tend to do very often.
This has got me. How do gums flap?
I don't know. I mean, you can't look at the semantics of it. You can't look into the actual details of it. You just have to understand that it's a saying, and that's what you have to go with.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like flapping your lips, but it's gums because your gums are generally attached to your lips in most cases.
I thought they attached to your teeth. But there you go.
Well, I mean, it's all about they're attached to your lips on one side and your teeth on the other.
The sayings.
Love it.
The sayings. So, getting into Licking Jail, and you'd already done it about a year before, I believe, we came in with you.
We did, yeah. Paranormal Quest investigated the old Licking County Jail about 1 year before you invited me and Jason and I to come with you. And it was one that kind of took us by surprise. We had activity all through the jail, and we kind of caught it early on because they only had between 12 or 15 deaths on document. And since then, they've done a lot of research. They've learned a lot more than what they knew whenever we investigated there. So my history might be a little bit behind in what I'm telling you guys because the history has very much evolved since then. Just like any building that has historical research, historians learn more, but I will say that I was very impressed with the architecture of it. It was built in 1889, and it was the 4th jail in Licking County. And, of course, just like any jail, it was where they sent the worst of their community to be, I guess, awaiting trial, and maybe even housing some criminals that had already been convicted, but generally that's people that are at the end of their rope, people that are in the worst possible places of their lives. So you get a lot of anguish, a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of different emotions that could be trapped in the stone. And of course it's built entirely of brownstone, which has kind of colored itself pink, which is very interesting when you look at the building. But I will say that it had a very, very sad history. It's 4 different floors plus a basement. The top floor was for women, the bottom 3 floors were housing units for men, and then of course the basement you had a drunk tank and also a punishment area known as the Hole. and they use that periodically depending on who they had misbehaving within the jail. But and I will say that one of the most tragic stories that I've heard from the Licking County Jail is one of the most memorable stories in the years that we've been investigating the paranormal, and that's the story of Carl Etherington, and he was a dry enforcement agent.
He was hired in Granville, Ohio, with 19 other officers to be a dry agent detective. At the time, that's with the plaque outside where you guys got your picture taken beside. At the time, Newark, Ohio was a horrible town. This is July 8th, 1910, so it's during Prohibition. And they were hired, 20 men were hired along with Carl Etherington to come in here and close down some of the brothels and bars. So he had went into the Last Chance Saloon, got into a scuffle with a William Howard. William Howard pulled out his blackjack and started beating him with it. And Carl Etherington felt he needed to pull a service revolver, and he did. And he shot him in the abdomen. Well, he actually, once they finally caught up with Carl Etherington, they brought him in here, threw him in the cell, booked him here for safekeeping, you know, because like I said, this is a bad town. They don't want this to be a dry county or anything like that. So when they did that, it upset the mob, and a mob of about 5,000 men and women and children all formed on the north side of the jail, I guess, right beside the canal. So you remember seeing the picture with the canal and everything running beside it? Imagine 5,000 people out there, and they want you dead. And you hear how loud my voice is in here. Can you imagine that many people outside? You know, I mean, he had to be scared to death. So he did a couple times try to kill himself. He put a coat over his head and tried to set it on fire. I mean, he was trying all kinds of things because he knew. Well, they ended up busting into the jail. They say that he used, what was it, a telegraph pole to actually bust the doors down to get in here, came up here, about beat him to death in the cell, and ended up dragging him out the north side of our jail, taking him to the southeast corner of our square and lynching him. So when his father came here to claim his body from Willisburg, Kentucky, they found out he was only 17 years old. So he had lied about his age. He was 15 years old. He joined the Marines. At 17, he became a dry agent detective, for this special little group to try to clean up this town. So it's just a really sad story. So a lot of people have reported just hearing different things in here, flashlight activity. All of these cell blocks, you might hear boot steps and, see different light anomalies and things like that. So, just pay attention to that. But he's probably our matriarch of our jail, because it's just such a sad story. Yeah. Can you imagine? And then I guess before he was lynched, his last words were, "Please tell my mother I died in the performance of my duty." I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. But I mean, 15-year-old Marine and a 17-year-old dry agent detective, what a driven child. Yeah.
It was almost like a community event. They all gathered at the town square as they brought him out, and they lynched him from a telephone pole, not realizing that this dry enforcement agent that they had so much fury and rage at was only a 17-year-old kid. I mean, absolutely tragic, terrible. And it almost hurts your heart to talk about it, because you can imagine a kid in that cell just petrified as the entire community is breaking down the door to kill him. And they were successful in that task. And a lot of people have heard from the spirit, they believe, of Carl Etherington still being there. I mean, you look at his picture, which you can tell just from looking at his picture, he's a kid.
And you expect the jail system and the guards to protect you. But there is a question mark, is there not?
Yeah, right? Speculation. Yeah, they weren't sure, because the door itself to enter the jail was battered with a wooden telephone pole by the community who was trying to break into the jail. But when they actually investigated it, they were unsure if the telephone pole was actually the cause of the door actually being opened. And there was speculation that maybe the guards might have opened it themselves and allowed the angry mob to enter the jail to come in and get him. So, which, granted, self-preservation kicks in. Those that are working in the jail may want to try and protect their own lives. Mm-hmm. If there's an angry mob outside and they are desperately trying to get in, they're screaming profanities, obscenities, threats, and you're afraid for your own life, there might have been someone working within the jail that day that eventually just said, you know what, I'm terrified. I need to open up this door and allow them to have this kid, because I don't want to die myself.
because I remember Terry, because it was Terry and
Holly.
that took us around. I remember they showed us a photograph, and it was a photograph from the day of the doors, and it shows there's no damage. They should, if somebody's battering doors in, then the doors should be extremely damaged if they've been forced. And Terry showed us a photograph, and the doors aren't damaged.
The day after, they, like we said, they used a telegraph pole, they used ladders, they even used railroad tie. This door right here would have been the entry point that they would have came in. But if you notice in that picture, the wood is actually fine in that picture. Now this is not the original wooden door, but the bars are.
Okay.
Now here's something else. They beat in the door. In the reports, they beat in the door. Those don't swing inwards, they swing outwards.
Yeah.
We did find out, and we're still working on it, that several higher ups, like the mayor and a couple of commissioners, even a jailer, had all lost their jobs due to this. It's believed that they slipped the key to this crowd. It was overwhelming, and it was, oh my gosh, we're all gonna die if we don't do something. Give them the boy. And that's what they did. So, but yeah, it's something when I see the day after and it's like, oh, they beat down the door and they did this. Clearly it's, you can come up with your own idea with that. I mean,
Does
really.
it look spotless, doesn't it?
If you guys come through this door later on, you have to turn this key at the same time you pull on the handle.
But they had more deaths than that. The ones that stuck out to me the most, you had actually one death. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but there was a death down in the drunk tank where a man died of exposure from being locked up down in the basement, and of course being intoxicated, being exposed to the elements down there, was not really temperature controlled down in that basement. He died from exposure. There was a man named Martin Kelly who was pretty much at the end of his rope because, like I'd said, a lot of these people were in the worst possible situations of their lives. They were in a place that they didn't want to be. They were facing possible prison sentences, being housed in a jail that had small cells and at times was overcrowded. They talked about there being 6 men in each of these tiny cells, which is just appalling if you think about it. So, and that being their introduction to incarceration probably put them in one of the worst mindsets that they'd ever been in. A gentleman named Martin Kelly in the men's unit was in the shower, and somehow he managed to smuggle in a razor blade to the cell block, and inside the shower he cut his own throat and bled to death in the shower. And one thing I remember when we investigated there, we actually ended up doing an abandonment session, which is very unique to Paranormal Quest. We'll set up the cameras, leave the building, see what we capture when the building's completely empty. And right beside the shower where Martin Kelly took his own life, we had placed a REM pod and a camera right across the cell block from it to capture anything that happened. And sure enough, as we were getting ready to leave, before we'd even walked out of the building, the REM pod started to go off, and Steve heard it. And he ended up going running to the cell block to see what it was that was happening, and sure enough, the REM pod was going off. So that is an area that's known to be haunted. On the women's section up on the 4th floor, one of the deaths that really stuck out to me was that of a woman named Mae Varner. And Mae Varner had gone through a divorce from her husband. She had had multiple interactions with law enforcement since then because she was acting out, lashing out. She had tried to take her own life with sleeping pills and was unsuccessful, and was brought to the old Licking County Jail, not only for supervision of herself, but supervision, I guess, for others. And on that 4th level, the thing that she ended up getting a hold of was fire. And the sad thing of it was what would have been her husband's birthday, her ex-husband's birthday, mind you, she ended up getting a hold of something to start a fire, and she, in the cell, while the cell door was locked, set herself on fire, and she burned to death.
Oh, that's horrible. I can't think of any other worse way to go. Fire and burning just terrifies me.
Yeah, so a lot of people have experienced her spirit up there, and it is just a very tragic place because of that. It's one of those places where the energy, the spirits, it's all trapped within the walls there. And it was open until the 1970s, when it finally failed almost every inspection that it was put to. And it's just, I mean, you think about it, It was built in the 1800s. By then, there was no way that it would be able to function as a modern jail in the 1970s, and those that were forced to be incarcerated there would be put through very excruciating and unpleasant living conditions. So eventually it failed every inspection, and they ended up having to close it down.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Because when you walk around it and look at how it is, because that's how it was when it shut down. It's just really...
Yeah, it's very strange, isn't it?
Yeah,
to see
to
it's
think
not
that people were
changed.
in there.
And also, they had children as young as 8 in there, and they would have to take any place that was available, so they could be put into the same cells as murderers and paedophiles and...
Yeah. So even sadder is maybe nobody come forward and confirm that, but from the evidence,
He was sacrificed.
maybe he was sacrificed. Yeah.
Yeah.
People have. I mean, talking about Carl, people have reported seeing his spirit.
Yes.
And of course, we've had the other stuff happening there: doors slamming, disembodied voices, dark figures. Workmen, I believe, have even reported being disturbed by loud screaming.
Yeah, they have. It is quite the haunted place. I mean, it's notorious. It's one of the most haunted places in the state of Ohio, I would say. Of course, you have your big ones like Mansfield Reformatory and other places like it, Madison Seminary. But I mean, as far as like in the eastern part of Ohio, Licking County is quite a powerhouse with paranormal activity.
And to stay working there, they had to put the music up. So
They did.
So they couldn't. So they couldn't.
And
hear
his father, when his father went and collected the body, he was told by one of the people that was there at the time when they grabbed his body to say, "Let my mother know that I died whilst on the job, whilst working."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, while in the service of my duty.
That's it. While in the service of my duty.
Yeah.
Yep. Tell my mother that I died in the service of my duty, which is just so sad to think about.
Because he was a child, and there's no getting away from the fact he was a child.
He was a child. He was only 17 years
Yeah.
old.
So
Yeah, and a lot of people, because he didn't die in the jail, he died on the corner a few blocks away because they took him to the corner to lynch him. But still yet, whether his spirit is in the jail or his spirit is elsewhere, there is residual energy there. And like you said, he tried to take his own life, and it was unsuccessful. So that fear, that anger, that sheer emotion that was going through him would have probably been trapped inside that jail. And they talk about that being one of the most powerful forms of paranormal activity. Whenever you experience something residual that is truly traumatizing, they say that it can be traumatizing for those that experience that residual paranormal activity. So that I imagine that is just trapped and building within that jail constantly.
yeah. Now the jail was built to house 68 men, women, and children.
Yes.
And then by the end of it, they were so overcrowded, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, they had like 6 people in each one of those cells. And that is not a good way to live because those cells are tiny.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of the exact dimensions of the cells. I can't recollect exactly how big they were, but 6 individuals within those cells would be overcrowded. They'd be sleeping on top of one another, especially if there was conflict amongst the prisoners. If you didn't like someone you were living with, but yet you had such a small space and there were 5 other people in there with you, it would just be excruciatingly just agitating.
I'm just going to slug this down before
What?
Have you just missed your mouth?
You've got a hole in your lip.
How can you miss your mouth?
Oh, I didn't. I had it at my mouth. It came surging out like a wild rapid.
Surgy thing.
It was like the dams up in New South
It
Wales that are
was.
letting go of the water. Yeah,
It burst, and there I was with it all down my chin.
that's right.
So, there was, to set the scene, there was me, you, Kag.
Yes.
There was Ryan
Yeah.
Yep.
and Jason
Oh, yeah.
from Paranormal Quest.
Yes,
But we
ma'am.
also... Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
we also had the lovely Beth Darlington from
Yes.
Access Paranormal with us as well. Mm-hmm. So, and we had a little tour around to start with. Holly and Terry took us around to give us a grounding of the place and the history. And it started almost straight away.
It did.
Yeah.
And we all heard it. And you probably heard it the best, Brian.
Yeah, it was really strange. We were in what would have been, I believe, the matron's quarters, and they turned it into a commissary when the jail was in its later years. But we were standing up there, and I remember Holly was giving the tour, and she was talking about an apparition, a figure that another guest had seen that was standing exactly how I was standing at the time, leaning against the doorway to the commissary, arms crossed, with my back to the doorway, and she was pointing out that it was strange that I happened to be standing exactly in the same fashion as this figure had been seen. So as she almost imitated how I was standing and leaned herself against the doorway that she was standing beside, I heard what sounded like something giggling behind me. It sounded like a woman or a child's giggle in the commissary behind me. And your camera, Allison, that you were recording the walkthrough on, picked it up very, very clearly.
Oh, it did. Yeah, we listened back and you can hear it. So I'm going to play it now and see what you think.
Being nice about it. And he said within minutes of calling for David in the back of the pantry, and it's ironic you're standing that way, because he said a very tall man stood with his arms crossed just like this in the very back. In the all black. I heard a laugh.
I don't.
No, it was a high-pitched laugh.
And I
It was
didn't
a
want to
high
interrupt you,
pitch.
but it's really
It was a
cold.
high-pitched laugh.
Yeah,
like a
it's
female.
really cold behind me. I didn't want to interrupt you, but it's really cold
Okay.
in the pantry behind me.
So that was none
That
of
was
you
a
guys.
high-pitched laugh.
So, yeah, there you go. It was really odd. We all heard it. And if you saw Jason's face, Jason's face was a picture. So go and, if you're subscribed, go and have a look at the video because, yeah, his jaw just drops, doesn't it?
It unhinged.
It's unhinged.
It did.
And it stayed unhinged. And that was us, for those not seeing, that was us doing an impersonation.
We were imitating, yeah.
Yeah, we were. So it started then. Also, when we were in the cell blocks, I remember I also got, it sounded like a male voice going psst, like that. So yeah, we were already starting to get things happening as we were kicking off. And of course, then we started the investigation and we went down to the drunk tank. So there was Ryan, Jason, me and Beth, because you were off elsewhere, weren't you, Kag?
Yes, I went to do a lone investigation upstairs in the ladies' area.
Yeah. Did you have anything, before we talk about the drunk tank, did you have anything happen up there?
No, it was quiet.
It was quiet.
Very
for you.
quiet up there.
All right. Because it seemed to be all happening for us.
It was. It's all down with you.
Yeah.
So we went downstairs and it was Terry that showed us a photograph.
Yes, that photograph.
That photograph, which is really, really interesting because it shows a face. Now, pareidolia happens. It was a face against the wall. And, you know, I'm the first one to say, oh, yeah, you know, your brain will try and do that. And how would you explain, for those who don't know, how do you explain pareidolia?
To me, yeah, pareidolia is the phenomenon that your mind, it's like an experience of the human brain whenever we can't make out something. So your brain loves order, and whenever there is chaos and something that our brain doesn't recognize, it'll start to place shapes together to try and create something recognizable, whether it be faces. That's why whenever you see, I guess, when you look up at the clouds and you see a dog, or when you look up at the clouds and you see a face, your mind is trying to create order from chaos. It's trying to create things that it recognizes out of chaos. And that was what I thought. As soon as the first time I saw this photograph, when Terry showed it to us, I heard her tell the story, and I thought, oh, yeah, sure, whatever, you know. Like, people see faces in walls all the time. People see faces in dirty windows all the time. You know, you hear all those stories about people taking pictures of the outside of buildings, and there's a face in the window, and then you look at it, and it's just like dirt smudged on the window. You're like, no, that's not paranormal. But this one shocked me because it's like picturesque, right? It's like an exact replica of the photograph of this gentleman.
It even goes across the mortar. So
Yeah.
you've got the mortar in between the stones and it actually crosses over the mortar. And it's identical to the face as well.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Harrison.
Oh,
So that's Mayor Atherton, the
Yeah.
mayor at the time of Carl's death.
right.
It looks just like the apparition that was captured down here.
Here, look. So if you can see that picture there, 'cause it's a bigger picture. So there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we can move it.
Yeah, that would just be much better, because unless you're a vampire and see through the radar, I don't think it's
So is it just a pareidolia on the wall, or?
Well, we tried that. We tried to look at that, but his face is in front of the grout lines.
Yeah, it's in, yeah.
It's in front of
lines.
the grout lines, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So she showed us that, and then we got investigating. So I think the most interesting thing for me down there is the REM pod, because it was largely silent, didn't blip at all until you said a name.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was Kenny Malcolm. I believe I couldn't remember his last name at the time, so I just called out Kenny. But, Kenny Malcolm was a gentleman who was brought into the drunk tank, and apparently he had had some sort of a head injury, unbeknownst to the jail staff prior to them bringing him into the jail, and they put him in the drunk tank because he was intoxicated, but he died in the night of a cerebral brain hemorrhage, and a lot of people have actually heard from his spirit down there as well. So it was weird because I started to talk and call out Kenny, and when I started to ask for Kenny, the REM pod started to react. If you get close to that, you can light it up some more. There you go.
Interesting note. The REM pod didn't go off at all for the rest of the night. And at first it was only blips.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like those small little blips you get on the REM pod, but then you kept encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like to encourage if something is reacting to what I'm saying, I like to encourage because I think maybe they're just trying to learn the equipment. Maybe they're not familiar with how close they have to get to it. Maybe there's some like a learning curve that has to go with it. So if something happens when I bring up a name, even if it's minuscule, even if it's minute, I'll always say, hey, get closer. Try and make it go off more. Sure enough, it did.
It did. It went full bore. And the other interesting thing is it didn't do it again afterwards. So it was just during the time that Ryan was calling out for Kenny, and it was just, after that, nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, and shortly after that happened, Jason suddenly startled because he had seen a shadow of a person go across the back wall.
Yeah.
So it was just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's creepy down there, too, so if you see something moving along the wall, I mean, it's all stone. It's like a dungeon. It is literally a dungeon. So when you're down there, you're on edge as it is, so you see a shadow going across the wall, you're going to react, and Jason reacted accordingly.
And then we moved on. We went up to the...
men's ward.
Thank you. Couldn't remember where we moved on to then. But Ryan saved the day. So we went up to men's ward, and this is when it really got interesting. So I decided I would put the headphones on and do an Estes, and walked off down to the bottom of the cell block and left these guys up there to ask questions. And it was chatty at first. I was coming out with your mundane little questions or answers, should I say, and then
It got a little bit interesting.
it did. And now let me just say, we don't provoke.
No,
do
we don't.
We're never rude.
No.
If you watch our videos on our investigations, we are always very, very polite.
Yes.
Until they start it.
Exactly.
And in our defence, what we're about to talk about, they started it.
They did.
So it's very chatty at first, and it was mundane answers until one word. And the word I heard, and I'll just say it, okay? I'm always very apologetic. In fact, no, I'm going to play this one word, and you can see how embarrassed I am to say it. Kill.
Kill who?
Hate.
Who is that?
Who's Pete?
Dead.
Kill Pete dead, yeah. Who is Pete?
Hate.
Who's Pete?
Yeah.
Can you tell me who Pete is?
No.
Why not?
I'm going to say it because it came out tits. Oh, God. This is the guys, right?
Yes.
So, for those who didn't watch, you'll see me throw my hands in the air and go, it's what I'm hearing is the word tits. And that's when it all broke down into, yeah. Now, at this point, the funniest thing, because you missed that bit.
I did.
No, you saw. Did you see me say the word? Or
No, actually, I had, so right prior to this happening, I had gone downstairs because I was going to try and find my phone because I wanted to do a live stream on the Paranormal Quest channel. Paranormal Quest Facebook page. I wasn't streaming to YouTube. I wanted to go to the Paranormal Quest Facebook page. So I went down to get my phone right as soon as this whole thing kicked off, and I missed that little bit, which listening back to it, I mean, it was just absolutely hilarious. But so I come back upstairs with my phone, and I had just started the live stream, and I'm talking to the live stream, and I'm like, all right, we're here at the old Licking County Jail. We're live with Kag and Ali, and Beth is here, and Jason's up there too, and in response to what Allison had called out, as soon as I walk in the room, Kag, you just said, so which one of us in the room has the best boobs? And immediately I was like, live stream off. This is where we are. This is not the proper time to be live streaming. This will get blocked.
Because what you missed was I was explaining to people that in one of our venues, when we first got in there was one particular cell. And when we used the ghost box or spirit box, there was certain words come out. And it was titties, boobs and boobies. And it's actually named people in our investigation groups that had the best brag. And some of them had really unusual names.
yeah.
So that's the reason I went, oh yeah, well, we got somebody who likes that sort of thing. And I just thought we'd try that. And yeah, it worked out the same time that Ryan was going live.
Caught me off guard entirely.
Yeah, it was his face. Because I heard him coming, I looked around just as he came through with his phone. And it was just like, the whole face was, as Kag kind of asked that question, who's got the best one? When I did that, I also heard very clearly, because we were now, I guess, not mocking, but we'd now gone down that, who's got the best ones? Ooh, look what he said. Like,
that rabbit hole.
Like little, yeah. We jumped down the rabbit hole.
We did.
And I immediately threw up my hands again, and because what I heard was F it. Not like effort. F it. And the impression I get now when listening back to it, I do wonder if it was trying to talk, the tits part might have been the
Tits.
end of a word
Yes.
and not the word. And it
Yeah.
was trying to get a message through. Of course, we were then running off down like children going down the rabbit hole on this. And I sometimes wonder whether it was a frustration thing, like, oh, F it. It's not worth it. And after that, it just got very abusive, didn't it?
It did.
So
We
abusive.
got called everything under the sun. We had the C word. We had the A-hole. We had all sorts coming out.
And it started to get to the point to where we thought maybe, Allison, you were just hearing things. Like your brain was in the gutter and you were just hearing things.
my interpretation of what I was hearing in the sounds.
Yeah, so we switched and I took the headphones and sure enough, I started hearing the exact same thing. So I'm standing there. There's a whole part of the video where Allison is standing there calling out the most vulgar things ever, like the most profane things. And then we switch and I take the headphones and then I start calling out the most profane things ever. So it wasn't her. It was
It
just
was
coming
definitely
through.
coming out. And your radio stations, now, correct me if I'm wrong, your radio stations are even more tighter controlled than ours would ever be.
Yeah, they are,
And
yeah.
you just wouldn't have those words coming out of your radio.
Nope, no profanity allowed. If any radio DJ, anybody even on TV, says any sort of profanity, they're fined by an organization called the Federal Communications Commission. and it is just not allowed. That is very strictly enforced. So no profanity at all.
So these, which made it even more interesting. This is what we were hearing. Now, it even said at one point 2 British leave. Now, I don't know, but I do believe 2 of us, Kag,
Might have been British.
3 of you were British.
Well, 3 of us technically were British, but Beth had lived in Australia for a long time, so she was at that point really Australian.
She had
And she wasn't as
assimilated.
She wasn't as annoying as the other 2 British ladies.
No.
So at one point I asked, can I come down and come a bit closer and talk to you? And Ryan came out with a lovely sentence.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, you talk about the vulgarity. You don't get 2 curse words in one sentence on American radio, so.
But basically, in a nutshell, I don't give a whether you do or not. I'll let you fill in that little space there.
Oh, sorry. C-U-N-T. You say it. Oh, sorry. That was loud.
Nasty responses here.
Pete.
Again.
What is that? Pete.
Yeah, you have to do some research and find if anybody named Pete or Peter died here.
If you leave, C-U-N-T.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
No, you're going to make us leave. Just telling us that is just. I'm sorry, mate. You really need more than that to get rid of us.
Anything?
Yeah, some interesting stuff, yeah.
Can I give it a try? Do you mind?
Yeah, go for it. It's gone quiet. It's the reason I've taken it off. It seemed to go through that tirade of.
Well, see the guy doing it might be interesting.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
true.
then it just petered it out and there's just been nothing really in the last.
You not only have the inmates. but
Oh,
you
look,
have
he's got to help her out. I've got this on video, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be right.
I heard the ghost box.
It's distant.
Bitch.
No.
Bitch.
Was that bitch?
Bitch.
Kag is talking about you.
I know. It knows my name. I'm answering. What do you want, honey? What would you like the bitch to do?
I don't give a
Oh, whoa.
Need to be nice.
So that one's back again then.
God, you're grumpy, aren't you? I suppose you've locked up in these cells or...
you.
Oh, my goodness.
You do. That's all I can say. Works both ways, matey.
At least I'm not the only one hearing that coming through. So it's not just me, so that's good.
So, and I even get closer, and then he says, back up. So, and then it started.
Yeah.
As it was talking about you, Kag, I'll let you...
Yeah. Well, you were pointing to me because it kept coming out with bitch. And you were saying, oh, is that me? Or is it that lady over there? And pointed to me. And then that's when Ryan came out with old bitch. And that was it. We lost it after that. Didn't we?
Yeah.
That was
did.
highly amusing.
We did.
Highly
It's right, I
amusing.
think. I'll play that one because that one's not too much profanity, so I'll put that one in.
You want women in here?
Bitch.
You got it right there.
Yourself.
That's me.
Old bitch.
That point's got that.
I love this guy. Can we take him home?
No.
Leave, get out.
I think he's talking to you again.
He is being awful.
Are you a broken record?
All right. That lady over there.
Old bitch.
Yeah, that's the one.
God, can't do anything for laughing now. Oh my god, I love this guy.
I was trying to work out whether it's me or you, but when I pointed to you, it said it again, so I'm going to say it to you.
What's the matter with me? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong?
Dick.
Wow.
This is weird.
So it's definitely talking about you then, Keg. Because it was great. I just pointed. If you see it in the video, guys, I point right at Keg and like that.
Old bitch.
I was trying to see, well, which bitch do you mean, me or old bitch? So, and what made me laugh is the responses from Jason.
Yeah, he was very displeased.
He
was,
was.
wasn't
He
he?
is such a gentleman. He was very displeased with the ghosts. And just kept saying over and over, "Now, y'all be nice to the ladies." In that lovely, lovely southern accent that Jason has. In fact, I must play that because it's great.
Be a gentleman now.
I prefer if they didn't, it's quite much more fun.
Y'all aren't being very welcoming to these ladies.
He knows we're not ladies, that's why.
And even Holly and Terry, weren't they? They were apologising.
They were.
Yeah, they've never heard anything like it before.
They
Have
kept
they?
saying, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. They're never like this." Well, they haven't met Kag and me. We bring out the best in all ghosts. It was like...
But they even had to go at Jason as well, though, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Probably because he was being protective.
Probably.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, if you think about it, these men were very much used to confrontation from men. You know,
Yeah.
that was generally what they experienced in jail life, prison life. So whenever there's a confrontational male telling them not to do what they're doing, they're going to get angry. They're going to get bent out of shape, so to speak. So,
Oh, so it came out with Jason's name,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then later on it said hide. All right. So we asked, are you threatening Jason? And then the reply was a little bit rude.
Yeah, well, we can't repeat all of
We
it.
can't, but
we
we
can
told him
allude.
to run.
You can say that bit.
Yeah.
Run.
And then it called him the C word.
It
Yeah.
did. I think Jason actually got a little bit jiggly at that point. Is that the word, jiggly?
Jiggly.
Is jiggly a word?
Did
even?
Jason get jiggly?
I don't know what jiggly means. I mean, jiggly to us is like shaking, like
Yeah.
jello.
Yeah, jiggly.
Oh, so like shaking, like he's scared.
He
No,
wasn't
not scared. but-
I think that, if I remember rightly, just rattled him a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like it rattled him. Yes, that is
Yeah.
what we would say in America.
Okay.
Yeah.
So jiggly
Yeah,
isn't a
jiggly.
word over there.
No, it definitely did rattle him.
And then I tried to go back down, and I think you said stab.
Yeah.
Lady.
Probably lucky that there's not such a thing as ghost shanks, because they probably would have got you.
Well, that would have been great on YouTube.
Yeah.
Best episode ever.
Yeah.
So, look, it was a really, really interesting night. I had a lot of fun. I mean, just having you guys there as well was a lot of fun. But I'd love to get back there. I think that Estes was probably one of the best ones I've had when travelling overseas.
I think it's the best one, but also the funniest one.
And
Yeah.
anybody who watches it, I am sorry that we are provoking a little bit. As I said, in my defence, in fact, in all our defences, like Kag's and mine, because Ryan was behaving himself, but in our defence, they started it.
They did.
So, no, we'd love to go back. So, are you ever going to go back?
Oh, I would absolutely love to go back to the old Licking County Jail. I keep in contact with Terry
Yeah.
regularly. I'm friends with her on social media, and so the old Licking County Jail is a place that it's always going to hold a special place in my heart. because we had so much activity there. And like you said, we had one of the most interesting Estes sessions there. And I wish that we could play all of it for you here on this podcast. But again, it is so riddled and laced with profanity that there's absolutely no way that any sort of streaming service would allow it to be on it, because it is that vulgar.
It may be on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. Go watch it on YouTube. Adelaide's Haunted Horizons YouTube channel. Search for the haunted Old Licking County Jail, and you'll find it.
You will. So, I reckon we'll go back.
Oh, for sure.
Are you going to join us?
Oh, I would love to come join you.
I think we have unfinished business there, don't we?
We do. We're going to go in there and do another Estes session and see if it'll cuss us out again.
Exactly. So if you're ever over in Licking, then definitely go and visit the Licking Jail, and definitely go and investigate it. So we managed to hire it for the night, but I believe there are functions there you can hop onto if you're not going to hire the whole place. And yeah, I recommend it wholeheartedly. I can't wait to get back there. So
yep,
very unique place.
Newark, Ohio, Licking County.
There you go. Go and look up Terry and Holly and see if they can take you around it.
Yep.
All right, we are going to leave it there. I believe, I'm not sure if we're going to stay in America for the next episode.
We'll have to wait and see.
Or whether I'm going to travel off again and fly off to England. We'll just have to wait and see. All depends in which order I want to put these up. Could be America, could be England.
Stay on your
Could
toes.
be Australia.
Stay on your, just have to listen and find out.
Stay on
you
your
have to
toes.
listen to see if these guys might be on another episode.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Who knows? Keep listening and sharing. And doing what do you do?
Oh, yeah, you have to share this podcast with your friends and family, and make sure you, I don't know, what do you do on Spotify?
Is it subscribe?
I don't know. Just make sure you do all the things that you need to do. Do all the Spotify things.
Yeah, do all them.
Follow this podcast.
Yeah. Go and like us on Facebook.
Adelaide's Haunted Horizons.
YouTube.
Adelaide's Haunted Horizons. Facebook.
YouTube.
Adelaide's Haunted Horizons.
Instagram.
Adelaide's Is it Adelaide's Haunted Horizons?
Yeah.
Adelaide's _haunted _horizons.
Even he remembered that. That's creepy. I think that's all. We're on Twitter. I'm testing you now.
Adelaide's Haunted Horizons. I don't get on Twitter very often, so I don't know.
I hate Twitter. And also, for those who would like to subscribe and watch the video version, which I haven't put up yet, but they're going up in the next week or two, then Patreon, which can be...
Adelaide's Haunted Horizons.
It's actually just Haunted Horizons.
Oh, Haunted Horizons on Patreon.
I thought I'd catch him out there. So.
No, Haunted Horizons.
And you'll get lots of live stream investigations and lots of fun and contents, a private Facebook page, and you will watch the videos for this, if you're on the right tier. But you'll find that out.
Cool.
Let's go.
Bye.
We've got things to do.
Thank you all so much.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Please remember to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. The extended video version of these episodes are available for members of Spotify and Patreon. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and see the full investigation from these episodes on our YouTube channel. Details are in the About section of this podcast. Thank you from Kag and Ali for listening.